So, Mr. Yashish Dahiya, founder and CEO of Policy Bazaar, thank you very much for giving us your time for this interview with India Global Business. We really appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
So, Mr. Dahiya, my first question is, Policy Bazaar, through its advent, has seen stupendous success right now in the marketplace, and it's being talked about. When you look at it now, from your journey from when you started, what potential do you see in the Indian market when you look ahead?
See, when I look at the Indian market, there is about 60 million families, 6 crore families, which are in absolute need of life insurance and health insurance. And these are defined as people, who have some income, a decent amount of income, and more importantly, they, if they were to fall ill, they would have expenses which cannot be covered by any other social form, whether it's a government scheme or whether it's any other financial mechanism. They don't have enough finances to kind of cover all their expenses, all their children's education, etc. So these people need insurance. This 6 crore number over the next 10, 15 years is going to go to about 15 crores, simply because in every family, there are 18-year-olds who will be 28 or 33-year-olds in 15 years old times. They will definitely have, and these families will still not disappear, because in the sense, the 40-year-olds will be about 55-year-olds or whatever, right? So there'll be at least two families coming out of each family right now. And more importantly, there will be more aspirational Indians who would move into this area. So I believe this is going to be about 15 crore people who will need health insurance, life insurance. And this is over and above whatever the government programs cover. And this is the middle class of India, right? So today, only about 15% of the 6 crore people have a proper health insurance or a life insurance cover. So I see tremendous potential ahead.
So Dahiya, one of the things that we noticed, and I interviewed your CEO in Dubai also, that you've taken, obviously, Policy Bazaar has taken a leap of faith by catapulting itself into the UAE and Middle East market. What prompted this decision? And currently, having come into this ecosystem, what have been the takeaways in terms of business learnings from this part of the world?
Sure. So see, health insurance and life insurance are long-term insurance plans, 30 years, 20 years, etc. And the reason I say that is, if I buy a health insurance plan today, there's a very high likelihood that I would not use it much in the next 10 years of my life, maybe even the next 20 years of my life. But at some point, everybody ends up using health insurance, or, and thus I call them, while they are annual plans, from a consumer perspective, they last a very long period of time. And many people who are in the UAE today would eventually retire back in India. And for them to have long-term health insurance, pension planning, life insurance planning done with an Indian thought process is a positive. And that is one of the reasons, we want to be there. We want to create new products with the insurance companies there, and get those products to consumers. In addition, of course, there is a motor insurance market, just like in India. There is, a motor insurance market there as well. And of course, the consumers benefit from some level of comparison, some level of, customer support. And that's what we're doing there as well. We found the UAE market very similar to, let's say, the combination of one or two wealthy cities in India. So I would say, of course, it's a more expensive, it's a richer market. And so we found it interesting. The languages, you can get by with English and Hindi in the UAE. And I think, so a lot of perspectives make it an ideal market for us to try out something.
Let's come to tech. There's a lot of discussion about tech. Tech is now, prevailing in every facet and sphere of life. And then we obviously tech is something which is on the major upswing in India, because the pandemic has thrown up this, the challenge of the pandemic has actually provided an opportunity which now lies in tech. But there are very vast parts of the country where, you know, not everybody subscribes to the benefits that tech offers, because there are substantial percentages of people in India that probably don't have access due to a host of reasons. And as your company continues to reach out and continues to grow across India, what are your plans in terms of, say, bridging this gap, and in order to bring new customers into your platform from, you know, like say the smaller cities and towns where they can actually benefit from what your platform offers?
So of the 6 crore people I spoke about, 6 crore families I spoke about, I don't think even 1% of them does not have access to tech. So I think more than 99% of them have access to technology. What technology does it take today to buy an insurance policy online? It just takes a mobile phone. And definitely these 6 crore families have at least one mobile phone each in their household. So I don't think technology is a barrier from that perspective. I do believe that insurance continues to be, given how much we spend on advertising, insurance continues to be a push product. It is not just a pull product. You can convince a customer, but you don't have to convince a customer once. You have to convince a customer 9 times before he actually buys insurance, because he's got to take money out from his pocket. And the best case situation for him is he never uses this product. Because please understand, you only use the insurance product in a distress situation. Nobody wants to be in a distress situation. So it's not like buying a mango or buying a pair of shoes or buying a travel ticket. There is no immediate gratification from this product, and that makes it a very difficult product to sell. So in order to get sales, you do benefit from having physical meetings. There's no doubt about it. Because if 2 people can meet, there is a higher chance that they will be able to convince the other person to buy. If they cannot meet, it's lower. If you have only digital, it's even lower. So I don't think it is a lack of technology. I do believe today in India, we've reached a stage where technology actually offers the best advice possible for a consumer. But as they say, a good teacher is not one who can just tell the student what to do. He waits for the student to be ready to accept the words that he's about to say. Because the student has to be ready. The teacher cannot do anything. And I think for the Indian consumer, I think they still want somebody to meet them. It's not about what is being said, it is about who is saying it, right? And thus, we will also leverage the advantage of physical meetings. Now, with our broker license, we will soon have people on the ground meeting customers to close transactions. And I'm sure we will also benefit from that.
Just to bring you back, the second wave of the pandemic that hit India obviously offered up a lot of questions with regard to the healthcare infrastructure that India had. It kind of blew open a few doors. There was a bit of a cold, hard reality when we were all forced to see it. Some things were lacking. And let's combine the need for healthcare with the need for a possible idealistic situation, or maybe it can be achieved, a healthcare insurance for all in India someday. Maybe that's a tall order, but where do you come in with your thoughts on this? Is it something is it a goal that can be achieved? And if so, what
I will try to give you a small example, which might clarify. I have an uncle who's a retired person from the government services. And then I have an auntie who's his wife. They obviously never bought health insurance till auntie started falling ill every year. Once she started falling ill every year, they finally decided that maybe because it's become a necessary cost now. It's a good time to get an insurance policy, because this cost can probably be transferred to the insurance company. Now, at that stage, no insurance company is willing to insure anyone, because obviously, because if there's going to be almost a guaranteed cost every year, then no insurance company wants to take on that person. But somehow, we were able to get some kind of policy for them. Then I asked uncle, why don't you also buy a policy? Maybe someday you'll also fall sick. Anybody, like, she's fallen sick, you might also. He said, no, beta. Only she's falling sick so far. You get the point. A lot of people in India still believe that insurance should only be bought once you need the claim. Now that doesn't work. That cannot work in any country. Nobody in the world can say, when you fall sick, you buy insurance and then I will pay your claim. You have to buy it in advance of an event happening. So now the government has a scheme, a very good scheme at the Ayushman Bharat level. So I think India has solved for the people who need government support. And it's solved for the upper end. The people who are very rich, you can afford to be at, you've got world-class healthcare institutions. You've got the Vedantas, you've got the Fortises, you've got the, the problem is the missing middle. This is the middle class. And what is the problem? Let me explain. This is a person who is earning, let us say, 5 lakhs to 20 lakh rupees a year. Does not want to use the government facility. Does not want to go to a government hospital, because they believe they've worked hard to come out of that zone where they don't have to access a government hospital. They want to access Medanta, Fortis, etc., because that's the aspirational point. But from your own pocket, it is almost impossible to afford that. Insurance is the bridge that can get you there to get that kind of treatment that you don't want to believe in. So we are caught. And someone like us is trying very hard to convince people that, look, you're in the middle class, you don't want to take a government facility, because I'm not saying anything wrong with government facility, but it is just, they don't want it. In India, most middle class people do not want their children going to government schools. They don't want to use government subsidy. They don't want to send their children. They don't want to go to government hospitals. That's the reality, right? That's the reality of India. But you don't have the ability to use the aspirational area also, because our hospitals have been built for not the economy class flyer. They've been built for the business class flyer. If you see what I mean from an airline perspective, because they're very expensive. The hospitals are costing $500 a day, which is more than pretty much anywhere else in the world, right? So I think that is the missing middle is stuck. Insurance is the way out, but they have to believe in it.
So we would say it's a question of misplaced aspirations coupled with, in some cases, ignorance also, as you said, because we even find this where people are hesitating to take vaccines in India. So an insurance policy is sometimes also, as the example that you gave, sometimes it just boils down to ignorance as well. I
don't know whether it's ignorance, whether it's, a lot of people have this view that when it happens, we will see. And hopefully everything will be good. We all believe in religion and all, and we believe that everything will be good. Bad will not happen to us. We shouldn't think bad. The reality is the hospitals are full. They don't have space.
Right.
So the reality is people, we are humans. Everybody at some point or the other makes a mistake or falls ill or something happens, right? So I think people just have to be more planned. I think the planning part is missing. But I don't blame the government. See, the government cannot. India doesn't have so much money that it provides a Medanta type hospital to every individual in the country. That's impossible. Nobody in the world does it. The UK has the best system. It has the NHS. Even that cannot compare with the, the luxurious 5-star hospitals that India has. And the UK is a very, very rich country. It has a per capita income of almost 40,000 pounds, almost 35 lakh rupees, right? 40 lakh rupees. That's the per capita income. In India, not even 1% of people have that income. So, and imagine having a national healthcare system which is better than this. It'll be, how does one afford it? That comes from taxes. Our tax collections are all. So I think we have to be practical here. There is that saying in India, Vasudevaya Kutum. The world is one family. We have to understand that. We cannot hope that we will get something out of this without giving something. Right? And we are not paying taxes. We are not, willing to take insurance. But then suddenly we want to blame the government that by there are no hospitals. Where will the government get the hospitals from?
So Mr. Dahiya, your journey so far, and it's been a very fruitful one, a very, very memorable one, has obviously been not without its shares of challenges and opportunities, which is why you're here at this point of time in a very, very, competitive environment where healthcare is really the buzzword now and insurance coupled with it. What challenges would you think you had to face in this journey, operating
I
in
think
India?
the challenges have been very par for the course, nothing very substantial. We are very lucky that we chose a subject which is very pertinent, which even today, 13, 14 years later, any logical conversation says, yes, the objective is very pertinent even today. That's rare, right? It's rare for a product in today's fast-moving technology world to last 14 years. Products, go out of fashion by then. So I think we are very lucky that we had a very strong vision. We had a very clear vision. Of course, there will be hurdles of all sorts, from time to time. But I think as I look back and as I speak to my friends who are, who've built businesses in the past, they say whatever challenges we've had are fairly par for the course. There's nothing extraordinary about them. In fact, compared to many, we have been quite lucky. So I think it's better to focus on the positives than to dwell on the hard times. Yes, they were there, but it will be possible to not have any hard time at all.
We are living in disruptive times, however, and as you said, your product is 14 years old and no product.
Yes.
And so obviously the call is for agility and adaptability. So I'm sure that you are also at the forefront of trying to ensure that everything stays relevant over a period of time. Where will it all end in your view for you in the end game or introducing game-changing innovations in the insurance sector?
So first of all, there is no end game, I believe. In the end, we are all dead. So in the end, there is no end per se. There is a journey. Where is this journey leading to in the next 4-5 years? I think that's the relevant part. See, so far we have taken customers to come to us online and we try to fulfill them remotely. Now we are bridging the last leg and saying, okay, if you want, we will come to your house as well. That I think will have tremendous results for us in terms of, our conversion rates, our relationship with customers. Because our people who meet people at home will also build relationships. And that also means multiple policies per customer. And we have to figure out how we control quality in all of this. I think the second thing that's going to be happening is we are focusing on the corporate side. And via the corporate side, acquiring a relationship with the direct consumer through wellness programs, etc. And that's another thing that started to take shape, and it's doing quite well. I think a third aspect is more a consolidation of existing, field agents or people who want to sell distribution, like other distributors, empowering other distributors through technology. That's the third element, and we are working on all three as we speak. There is a huge amount of effort that has to go into customer service, because insurance, as I said, you need to sell insurance 9 times before you get the payment. And then after getting the payment, you need to work on another 9 times for the policy to get issued, for the claim to happen. Because there is, whenever a customer interacts with insurance, it's going to be a distress situation. And at that time, if you're unable to support the customer, then, it's a complaint category. If one customer is unhappy, he will outshout 100 happy customers, because nobody's going to come and say, oh, I had a great experience with this insurance policy, right? But if one person does not get their claim, they will shout, and they will not get into whether they misdeclared, what the reasons were, because the public doesn't have time for that. And the empathy is always towards the customer, which is, not always correct. Many times the customer has tried to, give wrong information to get the policy, because that is that, and people don't understand it. That doesn't exist in other products. So if I want to buy a mango, I don't have to give any information. I just buy the mango. If I want to buy a pair of jeans, I just buy a pair of jeans. But in insurance, I have to say, I have to declare a lot about myself, about my parents, about my lifestyle. And those misdeclarations can mean wrong judgment of policy, different pricing of policy. And hence, it's a more cumbersome process. So I think we have a lot of responsibility. We've learned a lot in the last 14 years. We're still learning. We are understanding how, to assess risk better. Because that's necessary. You can say that it's not our job, it's the insurance company's job. But hey, we are the ones dealing with the customer. How can it not be our job to assess the risk of a customer? So I think all in all, it's an interesting place. That's what makes it somewhat difficult from a competitive landscape, because it's very difficult for competition to replicate all this, especially in a short period of time. So yeah, we have certain advantages because of that.
Mr. Yashish Dahiya, thank you so much for sharing your time with us and your thoughts. It was wonderful to speak to you, and we go away learning a lot about this sector from you. So thank you for speaking to India Global Business.
Thank you, Robin. Pleasure speaking with you. All right. Bye now.